You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey, and welcome to episode 368A, part one of our coverage of the South Georgia Film Festival. In this one, you'll hear from Melissa Simpson from Film Impact Georgia, Justin Malone from the short film Roadkill, David Smith from the short film Annie's Voice, and Chatejah George, owner of CNC Movie Film Studio. Then make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss part two of our coverage coming next week. Enjoy the interviews, and I'll see you in the intermission. And I can personally vouch for Saplo Insurance. I've used them ever since they became sponsors of the show. I mean, I felt obligated at first, but now I use them because they're the best and the cheapest, actually. So if you need production insurance, for real, Saplo Insurance in Savannah, everybody there is very cool and very nice.
I can also attest to that.
Oh, whoa, who are you?
Hi, I'm Melissa Simpson. I'm the executive director of Film Impact Georgia. Actually, we are also sponsored by Saplo Insurance. They were kind enough to sponsor our spooktacular fundraiser last year, which helped fund the most recent grant cycle. So thank you, Saplo Insurance.
Yeah, you said a lot of things there, including grant cycle. So
there were words, yes.
Melissa, what is Film Impact Georgia? What is it really?
Film Impact Georgia is a nonprofit that myself and Molly Coffey, the creative director, started in 2019. Basically, Molly and I were seeing a huge gap in the independent film community. We were seeing the successes of Hollywood productions coming to Georgia, but we weren't really seeing those successes lend themselves to the independent community. So we essentially decided that instead of continuing to grumble about that we'd do something. So Molly and I started in February of 2019. So we actually just had our third birthday as an organization. We're 3 now, so we're out toddling around.
You beat the terrible twos.
Yeah, beat the terrible twos, yeah. Through a pandemic, which was great.
Yeah.
And we really started with our biannual film grant, which is $5,000 for twice a year. To winning filmmakers, and with that $5,000, they get a mentor of their choosing in their area of choosing, and they help them finish the project. So we just, let's see, tonight, March 6th at 11:59 p.m., we are closing our 6th cycle, and after this grant, we'll have given $30,000 to creators based in Georgia.
Nice. So people here listening right now could run home and apply for it.
Anyone listening right now,
not the recording, because this will be up.
Right.
But physically in this room. I will extend until Wednesday at 11:59. So anyone in this room that wants to submit to us, you can do so until Wednesday. So I will give y'all an extension, get those projects in. So if you have a script laying around, and if you've already done some work, some shot lists, a budget, maybe some scheduling, go apply. The application process is free, and I hope will always remain free, because one of our main goals is to break down barriers of entry. And so we want to make sure that we're giving people opportunities without them having to pay submission fees, without them having to jump through lots of hoops. The application is very short. The only things required really are a script and an inclusion statement, which an inclusion statement is basically just a way of the filmmaker describing to us how they'll be thoughtful both on and off screen as far as diversity, equity, and inclusion. We, of course, would never want to tell anyone what stories to tell, but we want to make sure that folks are being thoughtful and including others.
Talk a little bit more about that, because I mean, it's obviously a hot button issue. I don't know, but it's been talked about a lot, and the inclusivity. It's a hard word to say, especially this early in the morning. But there's already been a lot of success. So, I mean, Jeremy Thau just got. That's how you say his
Jeremy
last name?
Thau.
Thau. He just got a lot of attention because of his film. So talk about his and the other success you've had with some of the films, including the ones that haven't necessarily won, but have submitted and have still gotten attention just through submitting to Film Impact Georgia.
Absolutely. So Jeremy Thau was our 4th cycle winner, and he wrote and is directing the film Walkman, which is the story of a Chinese immigrant family. And he, as an Asian American immigrant, is telling the perfect person to tell this story, especially at this time. And we have, really strived over the past couple cycles to make sure that the opportunities are getting in front of everyone. And we actually do ask for demographic information that we use just to make sure that we're putting the opportunities in front of the most diverse group of people. And each grant cycle, we have seen typically 60% of our submissions are by people of color. It tends to be 50 or 60% are female. I think we're somewhere in the 30 to 40 range of folks that identify in the LGBTQIA community. So that's really important to us, that we're getting the opportunity in front of folks that may have not had other opportunities previously. So yeah, Jeremy thankfully got a story picked up by 11 Alive News. And actually, if you go find the video, they chose the worst possible clip of me ever. The guy talked to me for 30 minutes, and the only thing worth putting in the news was we've had enough of white guys driving fast cars. So now I've said it again, so it'll be out there even more.
I'm going to isolate that.
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But we've seen successes from our other winners, but we've also, as you mentioned, seen successes from our top 10 finalists. I, of course, will claim 0% of their success because they're all incredibly hardworking artists. But we've had folks that went on and made their film in the top 10. One of our grant finalists worked with Lena Waithe, which was incredible. Again, I take no credit of that whatsoever, but it's really exciting to see these folks getting the wins that they deserve because they're putting in such hard work and telling incredible stories.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Melissa? What's personally the most exciting project that you've seen come across? I mean, there's been so many submissions. I mean, even the current one. I mean, I hear the numbers, and it's like, how do you decide between so many amazing submissions?
So we get over 100 each time. So our 6th cycle, we've now seen somewhere around 600 or so films. My favorite part actually is seeing the repeat submissions and seeing how projects grow.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Each time we always. You get a personal email from me if you are not selected, which is my least favorite thing to do. But each time we encourage folks to keep working on the projects and resubmit. And we had someone in the top 10 last time who had submitted twice previously, but each time they took that project, kept working on it, and we were able to see the progress, and then it made it as a finalist. So that is one of my favorite parts.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's just seeing the growth and progression, and maybe not even is it even the same film, or do you see the filmmaker is like, oh, here's my new thing. This is even cooler.
Both, but I like watching a single project that each time gets better. And basically each time it gets better is because the filmmaker has learned their story more and knows it better.
And so they're able to get that across to us of why it's an important story to tell.
Nice. Well, tell everybody where to find information about Fig and yourself. What's your Instagram? Shout that out.
Yeah. So you can find Film Impact Georgia at filmimpactgeorgia.org. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. It's at Film Impact Georgia, all spelled out. Twitter, we're Film Impact GA. Unfortunately, Twitter and their character limits. And then myself, I feel weird plugging myself, but it's Melissa M. Simpson on Instagram. And follow Film Impact Georgia. Also, I will shout out real quick, our website has tons of free resources for filmmakers. We have a filmmaker toolkit that has easily 100 different templates of anything from a crew deal memo, location agreements, storyboards, shot lists. And then we also have resources for how to build a pitch deck. Pitch decks, to me, honestly, are one of the best ways you can really tell your story to someone in a concise way. And then we also have other resources, including a list of independent distributors, what projects they've funded recently. We have a list of podcasts, which, of course, Atlanta Film Chat is the top of our recommendations. And lists of the Georgia film festivals, when their dates are, their film freeway pages. So we just have tons of resources that we hope that folks will use.
Nice. Well, I really appreciate it. And everybody give Melissa a huge round of applause.
Thank you for my third appearance on Atlanta Film Chat.
Hey, you're welcome.
This episode is brought to you by Sapelo Insurance. Sapelo is Georgia's premier film insurance agency. With over 10 years of experience in commercial lines and with film industry professionals on staff, Sapelo offers you the insurance you need for your next project, including equipment, general liability, auto liability, workers' comp, guild travel, and more. Contact Sapelo when you are starting your next production. For more information, check out their website at sapeloins.com.
I'm David Smith. I am the Film Crew Technology Program Director at Columbia State Community College in Franklin, Tennessee. And I'm here to present the film our students produced and did all the work for.
And what film is that? Tell us a little bit about it and the story behind the film.
The film is Annie's Voice. It was written by first-time film writer Christian Boyd, and he was a film crew student. So we wanted to make sure that we did our own work, if you will. It's a story about a young high school senior who plays music to help her brother. Her family is a dysfunctional family, and they use music as a means of escape. When she goes to a high school talent show and fails miserably, and so as a result, she kind of gives up music. But through the help of her brother, she finds it, and then she decides to pick it back up. So
tell me about the production and as coming from a teacher and all that. Like how much are you involved with the creation process? How much freedom do you give your students versus, just heavy-handed guidance, that kind of thing?
No, it's all directed. I mean, I've been doing productions for 30 years, so I don't need any more demo reel fodder. I've got plenty of it. So it was more like, okay, here's a script, or here's a series of scripts. Let's vote on which one we would like to produce. And then the students vote on which script to do. And then from there, it's all like through the process. I'm technically the director because we don't teach directing. It's all below line. But I wanted to mentor somebody whose aspirations were to eventually become a director. So we would go through the AD process, and then we would go through the breakdown process, and I'd say, okay, what do you think about this? And it was a little bit storyboarded by committee rather than someone having this strong cinematographer. But the people who wanted to do the cinematography and the camera work, they were the principal decision makers in terms of what actually worked. And then I would interject if they said, we would like to have a close-up here. I go, why? Well, I think I see a close-up. Okay, well, yeah, you have it in your mind, and that's a close-up, but there needs to be a reason why you're doing a close-up. and if you can find that reason, then we'll do it. Otherwise, we'll just stay with the medium shot or the 2-shot or whatever that happens to be the case. And so that got them to thinking about it's not just a matter of what they visualize in their head when they're reading the script, but why they're actually choosing the shots that they're choosing and so forth like that. So, and again, it was all the DP. It was done by students, camera work, audio, grip electric, post-production, the whole 9 yards, were all done by first-year filmmakers.
That's really cool. And the idea just having to justify everything that you're making is a very important lesson, because it's easy, like you said, just to have something in your head. I mean, I still do it as a screenwriter too. Like there's sequences that I this has to be in the movie, but once I get to the first draft and I look back and I'm like, well, yeah, it would look cool, but is there a real reason for it to be there? And it's a tough lesson to learn, like the whole "kill your darlings" thing. Like maybe it was even a scene that you had in mind that's why you wrote the script in the first place, but that doesn't justify its existence after that. So what are some other important? You mentioned you don't need more demo reels. You made a bunch of stuff, but what? Every lesson, every film is a chance for a lesson. And what's something you learned on this film to take to the next project?
Don't film during a pandemic. We were a week away principal photography when we were shut down, or when the shutdown happened. And then we didn't get to go back into production until August 1st, and we shot half of it on August 1st, and then we were slated to do the second half the next day, and then the location canceled when they realized how many people were going to be in their home. So we had like a mid-October is when we ended up shooting the second half of the film. So that was a bit of a challenge to maintain continuity between the students, continuity between the production, continuity with the talent, again, in terms of their characters. So that was one of the biggest challenges that we had in that process, and I learned more than anything else was just how to maintain that continuity. To keep people excited about the project so that the excitement doesn't wane and we just have half a film. So because the purpose of the program is to be able to produce something. It's not just about learning basic set etiquette. You can learn that in 4 weeks. It's about putting what you're learning into practice, because as filmmakers we have to know how to do all that stuff. So and it's you can't learn to swim without jumping in the pool, and so the making of the film was their swimming lessons, so if you will. So. But yeah, another thing is about killing your darlings. The screenwriter, the initial title for the film was called Annie's Song, which is if you were to Google Annie's Song, you get John Denver's Annie's Song, and you get and everything else. And so I was like, we have to change the title, and he was like, no, it's Annie's Song. It's Annie's. I said, no, but what's the we can't. If you want somebody to find your film, it's got to be something that's Google friendly, and so he finally said, I finally said, what is the purpose of this? What is Annie doing in her journey? What is she trying to do? And she goes, well, he's trying to find her voice. And I said, why don't we just call it Annie's Voice rather than focusing on what you had, that darling in your head in terms of the title of the film. And and then kind of like that light bulb went off. And so he goes, oh, okay. So I said, that's what killing your darlings mean. They'll be married to something just because that's how you saw it initially. So.
Well, that's all very good advice. So what are the next steps for the film, and also where maybe we could see it in the future, other film festivals and websites and all that kind of good stuff?
The film, we have one more film festival that we submitted it to 10. We got into 7 so far. we have one more film festival that is still in the deciding factor or stages, and we'll know sometime. I think it's mid-March, so it's soon, or it's mid-May. I can't remember which one it was. I know it's a month with an M in it. So, and once that, if it gets into that festival, it'll play at that festival, and after that, it'll go on to the Film Crew YouTube page for people to watch anytime they wanted to watch it. So, and the students can link to it for demo reels. They can have copies of the film, so they can put it in their demo reels in terms of the role that they took on and things like that.
Hey, this is Chuck, just breaking in real quick with some announcements. This Saturday, you can join the Atlanta Actors Collective and the Atlanta Film Society for a casting workshop. This is a workshop for both sides of the casting table, both filmmakers and actors. Filmmakers learning how to cast, getting some good tips on how to find that perfect match for that role, and then actors learning what you can do to make yourself more castable, preparing for auditions in the room, and much more. Again, it's this Saturday at the Plaza Theater from 10 to 2. Next Monday, March 14th, head over to Georgia Beer Garden for Film Bar Mondays. Go eat, drink, and be merry with other Atlanta/Georgia filmmakers. Tuck those business cards in your back pocket. Save them for later. This is just for fun. Then maybe later you get to work together. And of course, I need to tell you about our sponsors, Element Certified Public Accountants and Consultants. Hey, guess what? It's tax time. I have a pile of paperwork and receipts and other stuff sitting on my little table next to my seat. I have personal taxes stuff. I have my production company taxes stuff. It's very complicated and it's a nightmare, and it's just sitting there staring at me, and I need to go do it. You're probably in the same boat. You probably have taxes due, or maybe you have other money issues surrounding your film work. Maybe you need production accounting for a shoot. Maybe you would like to start a production company, but you don't know how to start, especially when it comes to money. Well, that's where someone like Element Certified Public Accountants and Consultants comes in. They're the place to go for all this stuff. They're getting bigger and bigger and better every year, and to prove that, they're hiring. So they want you to know that Element and its sister company, Storyboard Financial Services, are hiring production accountants. They are looking for entry-level clerks and production accountants, assistants, and keys. Full-time positions include health benefits, retirement benefits, and immediate room for growth. See more growth. If you're interested, please contact Element by visiting elementcpas.com. So whether you're looking for money help with your productions, or maybe taxes, because it's all a nightmare to someone like me, so I get it, or you would like to go work for Element because you're an actual smart person and you know how numbers work, which would be nice. I envy you. Either way, go to elementcpas.com. Element, fluent in your language. So I had a lot of fun this weekend at South Georgia Film Festival. I'm a little worn out just having to interact with people is exhausting, just in a general sense, but also as, knock on wood, COVID is seemingly calming down. We were able to be in the same rooms together, and I did the live show, which you're hearing some of, and is a little nerve-wracking just being in a room, but it was a lot of fun. Then I went to go get a tattoo from an old friend, Brass Quill Gallery. Go see Jake Walsh at Brass Quill if you ever need a tattoo in Valdosta. Got Sam's Carryout. If you need barbecue in Valdosta, go to Sam's Carryout. So it was a good weekend. A little tiring, but that's okay. Stopped to see my sister and her family on the way back. Good trip. And it was fun talking to all these people in this episode and the next one. There was so many, had to split it in two. So I'm going to get you back to it. No Patreon this week or next week, really, because there wasn't really time to do that kind of thing. But I will say thanks to Ken Merritt for getting the shout out on the show option. And if you haven't been over to patreon.com/AFC Indie Film, there's literally hours of content you're missing out on. Tips from filmmakers from all over the world telling you how to make a film. You have questions, they have answers. Wait, that's a slogan for something, right? I might have just broken copyright. Anyway, go to patreon.com/AFC Indie Film. Early access is $1 a month. Feel like it's a pretty good deal, right? All right, back to the show, and I'll see you next week. Justin, welcome. Introduce yourself and tell us a little about the film that you brought to the South Georgia Film Festival.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Justin T. Malone. I directed a short film called Roadkill. We call it a Southern Gothic thriller. It's about 15 minutes. Tells a story of sort of a wealthy, upper middle class teenage girl who her life kind of gets upended after she gets accepted into her dream college. She then has a car accident and sort of hits someone with her car and tries to cover it up, basically, is the story.
And what's the inspiration behind the story? And what I like to ask this is that everybody gets tons of ideas for movies all the time, but to make that decision to dedicate your life for like a year plus to making a thing, and when did you know that this was the right story to tell?
Right. So I got the idea for it a long time ago. I think December 2017 was when I like first wrote down the idea of like hit someone with car, try to cover it up, whatever. Sat on it for a while, didn't really know what to do with it. Tried to write it a few times, just didn't work. So at one point I passed it to a friend of mine named Bailey Inman, who I think is a really good screenwriter. It was just like, hey, I have this idea, but I don't know what to do with it. Like, would you be interested in writing it? So she sort of turned it into like a really like effective, like genre sort of thriller thing. And I really liked it. And I was like, that's awesome. Wish I had money to make a movie with like a car accident. And so,
right. Yeah.
So sat on it for a while longer. And then sort of I grew up in like the rural Tennessee, middle of nowhere. So a lot of the stories that I tell are sort of about like white trash, basically, like working class people,
right.
Sort of in the rural South. So eventually I sort of went back to that script and kind of put my own spin on it, taking it in this like Southern Gothic direction. And that was when it really came to life. And it was like, no, I have to make this now. So started saving up money. I worked for a summer at a salmon fishery in Alaska to get money for it.
Really?
Wow. Yeah,
okay.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
And then it was my thesis film at the University of Memphis. I was in grad school there. So I was able to use their equipment as well to get it made.
You gotta talk a minute about working in Alaska. I gotta hear just sidebar. Like, what was that like?
So I went in summer of 2020. So right as coronavirus was really peaking, I was like, oh yeah, I left on like May 30th, I think. I was supposed to be back around like August 1st. So I was like, when I get back, it'll be over and I can finish Roadkill.
We were so optimistic back then.
Yeah. Obviously that did not. And I was like, we didn't have internet service or anything up there. So it was just like working. Like I would call my family and stuff, but that was it. So I get back and I'm just like, all right, cool. And now life will be normal. And then it was not, but we did still manage to get the film finished eventually. But it took a lot longer than expected. For sure.
Yeah. Talk about shooting during COVID.
Yeah. So it was a 4-day shoot. I had all this stuff planned out. I had all these resources from the University of Memphis. The first day of shooting was March 14th, 2020. And then we were supposed to finish it the next weekend, the final 3 days. Shot on March 14th, 2020. That's when we shot like the party scenes, if you got to see the film. Got that all done, and then the next day is when like my university canceled classes for the semester.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
That was March 15th, 2020 was the day like the state of Tennessee shut down, basically. So that derailed everything. Lost a little bit of money in like hotel reservations and stuff like that. So that was pretty depressing. Ended up finally being able to finish it in September of 2020, I think late September. So there's tons of continuity problems if you watch the movie closely, like the actors' hair lengths are different and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was wild. So we shot the final 3 days of the film about 2 hours down the road from Memphis, where I grew up. So her house in the film is my parents' house. A lot of the locations are on the street where I grew up. Like there's like a trailer sort of behind them in one of the scenes. That's like where my uncle lives, like, that kind of thing. So that was really cool to be able to make a film like in the place where I grew up. Most of the crew, I think we had a 6 or 7 person crew there. So we all sort of like quarantined together at my parents' house. My parents left for the weekend and they were like, yeah, just like, don't break anything. Yeah. And then for our actors, we put them up in a there's only a motel. There's like one in driving distance from where we were shooting. So that was, yeah.
That's cool. I mean, you talked about the whole quote unquote white trash subject matter. But there's a lot of talk about, like specifically Georgia, but the Southeast. But there's all these stories that we have here that you can't tell in LA. And most of the stuff that comes, a lot of the films that shoot here in Georgia are LA based. Right. They come here, they shoot, and they leave. And we want to get stuff made here because of stories that are specific to this region. Talk a little bit about that and why that's important to you, maybe specifically to you in this film.
Yeah, for me at least, where I grew up is so the closest town of size is Jackson, Tennessee, and it's 45 minutes away. So it really is sort of middle of nowhere. Memphis and Nashville are both 2 hours away. So it's a very rural, I'm 2 generations removed from sharecroppers basically. Mm-hmm. But that culture has disappeared. There's, farming has been pretty much industrialized. The only work really in the area is you drive 45 minutes every day to Jackson, or there's one factory in the town where I grew up, stuff like that. So it's a culture that's kind of disappearing, and really that disappearance has sped up over the past couple of years with how expensive property is right now and the emergence of working from home. There's been a lot of people just buying up any, you might live in Michigan or New York or wherever, and you just get on Zillow and see, here's a 3-bedroom house for $140,000 buy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people just sort of moving in, and the culture that I grew up with is kind of disappearing. So I guess my mission as a filmmaker is to try and preserve that and sort of tell stories about, anytime you see stories set in the South, it's usually either, it's Deliverance kind of thing, stupid hillbillies, it's that kind of stuff. But I think the South, especially the rural South, is a lot more diverse than people give it credit for. The area I grew up in is, has about a 20% population of African Americans, got about 11% Hispanics. So there is it's a more diverse place than I think people give it credit for. So I think trying to find ways to tell stories about the rural South that paint the full picture, flaws and all, you don't want to ignore it. You don't want to pretend that I'm not about to make a movie and pretend that racist people don't live in the rural South. Yeah. They do. But trying to tell those stories with nuance and in just a more human way, basically. Nice. Yeah.
Any questions for Justin from the Peanut Gallery? Well, talk about any lessons you learned on the set of Roadkill that you're going to take to your next film. Maybe something never to do again, or something that you learned in a positive way.
I think never to do again is probably just try to shoot outside in the woods at night a lot less. That's sort of a running joke among a lot of filmmakers is you open a script and see exterior woods night. It's no, thank you. I don't want to be involved. And I've made a couple films now that are mostly outside in the woods at night. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'd like to do that less. Make sure you not just get things in writing, but get them signed. I had a thing while we were making Roadkill. We got permission from the county to shut down a road. It's a little back road. There's another way to get out. It wasn't going to impede traffic in the area. So we got permission from the the chief deputy sheriff or something of the county. But then we actually got out there and the neighbors are what's going on? Started calling the cops. They show up and they're yeah, you can't shut down a road all day. And it's I'm showing emails and text messages and they're yeah, you can't shut down a road all day. So we had to do a lot of scrambling I think the movie could have been 10 or 15% better had we been able to just do all the things we planned to do. I'm still happy with how it turned out, but that was really stressful. So just learning to, keep those things, make sure you get those things in order, before you even try to shoot. is something that I think was a big lesson.
No, yeah. If there's no signature, it doesn't exist.
Right.
Hey, yes, you right there.
So what's next?
I shot a film in May of 2021 called Beware of Goat. I won a grant from the Indie Memphis Film Festival to help produce it. So that's really exciting. It should be done already, but I'm a procrastinator. It will be done soon and start submitting to film festivals. So I'm hoping maybe September or October kind of festival premiere date. And it's like the biggest, most ambitious thing I've ever gotten to do by far. It was, the cash that I put into Roadkill plus like the equipment, the cash value of like the equipment we were able to get from the University of Memphis, it cost like $6,000. This one costs like $18,000 or $19,000 all told.
Oh, yeah.
So it is like a big step up. I was able to pay my actors, pay my crew, that kind of thing. And yeah, it's very different from Roadkill, much lighter in tone, still kind of dark subject matter, but sort of a dark comedy. It's about these two like feuding sort of redneck families that live next door to each other and don't like each other, and things go south, basically.
Nice. Anybody else?
Where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on the internet. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Justin T. Malone. No spaces, obviously. Justin like Bieber, Malone like Post. And then JustinTMalone.com is my website. I made it myself. It's not very good, but you can find me on there. YouTube at Justin T. Malone as well. So
cool. Well, thanks, and everybody give him a huge round of applause.
Thank you for having me.
Film Impact Georgia is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing a voice to independent film production in the Peach State. Their focus includes short film grants, development labs, community boosting events, and support services from vendors and mentors. Georgia has diverse and engaging storytellers, and FIG is determined to help break down the barriers to creation in our state. Find more information about the organization and how to get involved at filmimpactgeorgia.org.
Hey there, I'm the Question Bot. You will hear me in place of the audience during this live show because most people are too quiet to be heard on Chuck's microphones. I also have to paraphrase a bit because Joshua, the, quote, editor, is too lazy to listen to the whole question before jumping to the keyboard. He's really rude that way. But what are you going to do? He has an ego the size of Texas. Anyway, moving on to the show. Talk to you in a bit.
All right, so introduce yourself and what brings you to the South Georgia Film Festival?
Well, hi, my name is Chatejah George, owner of CNC Movie Film Studios, and I was invited to come speak here at Valdosta State University.
And is this your first time at the South Georgia Film Festival?
It is, yes.
What did you think of the weekend?
It was amazing, an amazing experience, and I would recommend all filmmakers and even students that are interested in film to come because it's a lot of information that was spilled here.
Yeah. Tell us about your movie studio. Obviously, it's been a big deal recently, the past few years, I guess. But just talk about just the initial, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to open a studio. That's a huge endeavor to take, so just talk about the inception to conception.
Well, I started off making web series. I would film them every week. I didn't miss a week. And one day I looked on my YouTube and I was like, oh, wow, it's at 100,000 views. So I created another show. It got 100,000 views. Another show got 100,000 views. The first show I created is at 500,000, and then people started recognizing me, at Six Flags downtown. They'll say, hey, you're that girl. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And I needed more places to film. We were filming outside. It was hot in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. We were sweating, just filming outside, and I started getting Airbnbs, filming at my house. And then I said, okay, I need a hospital, I need a barbershop, I need more locations. So I just had a dream that I was going to open up a film studio. I woke up, told my mom, like, okay, I need a film studio, and everything happened pretty smoothly. I looked at a building. I said, okay, that one, applied for it, got approved on my birthday. I was 22 at the time, got approved on my 23rd birthday, and we moved in it. I told my mom what I wanted the rooms to be. So I just went and pointed them out, like, I want this one to be a hospital, this one to be a barbershop, this one to be a classroom. She said, okay, and she made it look very realistic with no set design background or anything. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just having access to that, and I have so many questions, just all those, I mean, I've heard comparisons to Tyler Perry's studios, and that's what I've heard about that area. Is that I was like, oh, we need a hospital, and then they go there. It's all set up. The cameras are ready. They turn everything on. They film, and then they go somewhere else. And having access to that, I mean, that is a dream. That's the dream for every filmmaker.
Yeah.
Man, I don't even know where to start. So, okay, Axel. So, what was the first thing that you shot inside that studio, and what was that experience like? Of like, oh, this is my area. This is my stuff. I can do whatever I want here.
Well, I actually shot a new web series. It was a sketch comedy. And when I was first shooting that, I didn't have everything. I didn't have all the props.
Okay.
It was really like halfway done.
Okay.
And a lot of people were laughing at me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because it wasn't all the way together. So they didn't see the vision or the dream. So it was a struggle. But we made it work.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty universal thing. Just being a creative person, I think, is that people are just going to laugh a lot. Like, oh, what are you doing? You're crazy. Until it works.
Right.
And then the news comes after you, you know? And then the vision is there. So how much stuff have you filmed in there since that first day?
Let's see. I filmed the web series, the comedy sketch, and then I started another web series, and then I kind of got very busy because people kept booking it, so I didn't have time to focus on my own content.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. We already heard a few filmmakers saying they want to approach you and like, oh, we want to use this facility. So has that been more prolific, I guess, for you? Or is that what you wanted in the first place, was to rent it out? Or, you know, is that a pleasant side experience that you're having?
Yes, it's actually a blessing, because I can create a space where filmmakers can afford to, film, because all of the independent places are very expensive. You know, Tyler Perry's an arm and a leg, and you have to have a big budget. But for college students, I also, I work with their budgets. Even if you can't afford $125 an hour, I will work with you because I understand the struggle. And there's also things you can do. You can intern for space in exchange if you can't afford the space.
Nice.
But I really try my best to accommodate people who don't have, the funds to film, because that was once me. And I know how, hard that is. Yeah.
No, that's very nice. That's very cool. And I mentioned about just approaching and asking, and it seems like a huge ask. But if you don't ask, you don't know. So that's really cool. Any questions before we keep going? Oh, there's one.
Was it your social media presence that was the turning point in your filmmaking?
Well, yes, most definitely the views helped. Around that time, my social media was blowing up on TikTok. I have like 4 million, almost 5 million followers, so that helped a lot too. They support my shows a lot. So yes, to answer your question, yes.
Oh, over here.
What was your first film about?
My first film was horrible. I can't even tell you what it's about. I was just doing whatever. It was an improv show, didn't have a script. I would just tell the actors, make up something on the spot with who I had. It was very horrible. It was a drama. I can tell you that it was about a young girl who dated a guy who was abusive, but the storyline was very shaky because it wasn't consistent, but...
What was the video that first made you blow up?
It was that web series. Yes, it was horrible. I don't understand why people watched it, but...
Oh, right here.
If someone else were to try and build a studio like you did, what advice would you give them on how to get started?
Well, what I did was I saved all my social media funding I was getting sponsorships from like Zaxby's, Popeyes, Warner Bros. I did a lot of Cardi B songs. They pay very well, up to like, I was making pretty much $1,000 a day from just TikTok. So, use your social media. You can go live to make money. A lot of people don't know that. Twitch pays good. YouTube pays good. So use social media to your advantage. It didn't happen overnight, though. It took a while. It took years for me to grow it up to that point. What was the other question?
I guess, like, how did you build your studio?
Well, I still haven't figured it out. I just did it. It was just something that I just did. And I had help, like my boyfriend, my mom. He helped me. He helped me he's really good with building stuff, painting, and he helped a lot of that. I don't know how he knows how to do that, but that helped as well, using my resources and the people I had around me.
I mean, that's an important lesson. I mean, that's for every filmmaker starting out, no matter how far you are into your career, you've got people around you who want to help for various reasons, and they see the vision that you do. Like you talked about the people that are laughing. Your boyfriend and your mom weren't laughing. They said, how do we help? You know what I mean? And like, that's very important. That's very important. They always say, like, well, if you're doing a crowdfunding thing, you start with your friends and family. You can't stay there. You have to expand out from that usually. But you start with there and like, hey, look, I believe in this thing. You love me. Please help me. And that's very important. It's an easy step to overlook, but it's very important.
And I learned to do a lot of stuff I didn't know how to do, like paint. I was like pulling stuff off. I did a lot of stuff. I had no idea what I was doing, but, watching YouTube, that helped me a lot. I was pulling floor up. Yeah.
Wow.
Did a lot of stuff.
No problem. I think I saw. Yeah, there's another.
Where is your studio and how large is it?
It's located in Morrow, Georgia, and it's 20,000 square feet. No problem.
How can I book your studio?
You can go on the website, that's ccfilmsatl.com, or Instagram, CC Movie Film Studio. I also have business cards as well.
Nice. Yeah. And briefly, before we go, talk a little bit about social media presence thing. I mean, I'm an old man.
So You're not old.
I'm an old man, and I like to say I'm just smart enough to know that I have to understand the new world that we live in. I'm a little too dumb to actually use TikTok, etc. But I realize that it's very important. So give advice for people. Maybe they don't give it enough views to create a studio per se. But anybody can hop on there and start monetizing and just making interesting content. I watch Twitch, I've been using that for forever. So any advice you have for people to just start doing that?
Well, that's all you have to do is start, and it's just like a job, like a 9 to 5. You post every single day. I was posting. Maybe I would say 7 times a day. I would wake up at 6 in the morning, go live, and end at 10 p.m. So I treated it just like a job. If you want to see those results, you're going to have to post and treat it like a job. So I would just recommend posting every day, consistency, doing some of the trends, add some trendy music to it, add some words, go look up your favorite social media person and see what they're doing, and kind of take notes from there, pictures, videos, and showing your personal life helps as well. People want to see who you're dating, what foods you're eating, if you're vegan or not. That's helpful as well, too.
Okay. And one more question here.
What platform are you on?
I would say all platforms, but I have the most on TikTok. Yeah.
How many views do you get per month?
Monthly average views, I would probably say right now over 5 million. 5 million? Yeah, a lot of my videos hit 1 million views.
What about YouTube?
YouTube, let's see, I just started posting this show. It's almost at 10,000 right now. I would say monthly, I guess I would say about 10,000 views. I'm still building my YouTube.
How can I make ungodly amounts of money on the socials like you did?
Well, there's a few ways. You can put your email in the bio and people will reach out to you, like sponsors. That's another way. You can go live and you can make money that way. And then you can sign up for the Creator Fund and TikTok will pay you that's in your settings. That's another way as well. No
Nice.
problem.
Where can we find you on social media?
Hey, that was going to be my question.
You can find me on Instagram at ChatejahGeorge. My TikTok is I am the real THA. That's IAMTHEREALTHA. But if you just Google me, all of my socials will come up. That's Chatejah George. Again, that's ChatejahGeorge. Last name George, George.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and everybody give her a huge round of applause.
Can I take her sticker?
Yeah, take whatever you want.
The AFC Indie Filmmaking Podcast is produced by Zombie Cat Productions and Tranquil Aggression Productions. Your host is Chuck Thomas from AtlantaScreenwriter.com. Editing is by Joshua Golke. Find him at AtlantaFilmmaking.com. Music and event recording is by Michael Breezy Keys Jones. He is found at LDXSoundLabs.com. Zombie Cat Productions is owned by Molly Coffee. You can find it at ZombieCatPro.com and her at MollyCoffeeDesign.com. I am your announcer, Rob Scheimer. I can be found on SoundCloud. My profile name is ROBSHIMER. Thanks to our media partners at CinemaATLMagazine.com, and thank you for listening. Grab all our episodes at AFCIndieFilm.com.